The morning sun cast long shadows across the busy streets of San Francisco. The city was just waking up, with people rushing to work and tourists already exploring the famous hills. Among the crowd was a thin boy named Marcus. He was 12 years old, though many thought he looked younger. His clothes were old and dirty. The blue jacket he wore was too big for his small frame. His shoes had holes, and his dark hair was messy and needed washing. Marcus had been on the streets for almost 8 months now. He had run away from his 5th foster home after the man who lived there started drinking again. Marcus knew what came next. He had seen it before. So one night, he packed his few things in a small backpack and left through the window. Life on the streets was hard, but Marcus had learned to survive. He knew which shelters were safe. He knew which places to avoid at night. He knew which restaurant workers would give him leftover food at the end of the day, and he knew which people to trust and which to stay away from. But mostly, Marcus stayed alone. Being alone was safer. On this particular morning, Marcus was sitting on a bench near Pine Street. This was a good spot. Many office workers passed by here, and sometimes they would give him money or food. Today, he was hoping for breakfast. His stomach had been empty since yesterday afternoon. Across the street was a row of food carts. The smell of cooking meat and fresh bread made Marcus's stomach hurt with hunger. He watched as people lined up, paid money, and walked away with warm food. One cart was especially busy. A man with a red cap was selling sandwiches that looked big and delicious. Marcus had been watching this cart for 3 weeks now. At first, he had just been looking with hungry eyes. But then, one day, he had gone to the back alley to find a place to sleep. That's when he saw something that made him sick. The man in the red cap was taking old meat from a dirty bucket. The meat smelled bad, even from where Marcus was hiding. The man mixed this meat with fresh meat. He put everything together and stored it for the next day. Marcus had seen rats running around the buckets at night. He had seen the man pick up dropped food from the dirty ground and put it back in his cart. Yesterday, Marcus had seen a businessman get very sick after eating one of those sandwiches. The man had thrown up right there on the sidewalk. An ambulance had come to take him away. Today, Marcus decided he had to do something. He couldn't let people eat that food. But who would listen to a homeless boy? No one ever listened to him. Just down the street was a small cafe called Morning Light. It was not the kind of place Marcus could ever go into. It was for people with clean clothes and money. Through the window, Marcus could see an old man sitting alone at a table by the window. The man was tall and thin, with white hair and a serious face. He wore a simple brown jacket and looked out at the street as he drank his coffee. Marcus didn't know the man was Clint Eastwood. He didn't know this man was famous for making movies and being a director. He just saw someone who looked strong, and maybe, just maybe, might listen. Meanwhile, Clint Eastwood was enjoying a rare moment of quiet. At 92 years old, he still worked hard making movies. But today was different. Today he had decided to take a morning off and enjoy the simple pleasure of a good cup of coffee and a plain bagel with cream cheese. He liked this cafe because people usually left him alone here. As he looked out the window, Eastwood noticed the thin boy on the bench. There was something about the boy that caught his attention. Maybe it was the way the boy watched everything so carefully. Or maybe it was the look in his eyes. Too old for someone so young. Eastwood had played many tough characters in his movies. He had pointed guns at bad guys and said cool lines that people still repeated today. But in real life, he was just a man who noticed things others missed. And right now, he noticed this boy was troubled about something. The boy suddenly stood up. An older woman was walking from the food cart with a sandwich. She was small with gray hair and a purple coat. She looked kind and reminded Eastwood of a teacher he had liked many years ago. The boy ran toward the woman. Eastwood watched, curious about what would happen. Was the boy going to ask for money? Or maybe try to take the woman's food? But then, something unexpected happened. Just as the woman was about to take her first bite of the sandwich, the boy shouted, "Don't eat that!" The woman jumped in surprise. She almost dropped her sandwich. She looked at the boy with fear and confusion. "Please," the boy said, his voice softer now. "That food is bad. It will make you sick." The woman clutched her purse tighter and stepped away from the boy. "Leave me alone," she said. "I don't have any money for you." "I don't want money," the boy tried to explain. "The man at that cart, he uses bad meat. I saw him. Please don't eat it." But the woman wasn't listening anymore. She hurried away, looking back over her shoulder to make sure the boy wasn't following her. Eastwood saw the defeat in the boy's shoulders. The boy turned and looked at the food cart again. His face showed worry and frustration. Then, as if feeling Eastwood's eyes on him, the boy looked toward the cafe window. Their eyes met. The boy seemed surprised that someone was watching him. For a moment, they just looked at each other, the famous movie star and the homeless boy that no one would listen to. Eastwood made a decision. He left his coffee and bagel on the table and walked outside. The cool morning air hit his face as he crossed the street toward the boy. The boy looked ready to run away. "Hold on there," Eastwood said, his voice deep and calm. "I saw what happened with that lady. Want to tell me what's going on?" The boy looked up at the tall old man. He seemed to be thinking hard about whether to trust this stranger or run away. "No one believes me," the boy finally said. "But that man is selling bad food. Really bad. I saw what he does." Eastwood looked from the boy to the busy food cart. People were lining up, paying money, walking away happy with their food. The man in the red cap was smiling and working fast. "What's your name?" Eastwood asked. "Marcus," the boy said quietly. "I'm Clint," Eastwood said, not expecting the boy to recognize his name. "Why don't you tell me exactly what you saw, Marcus?" Marcus looked around as if checking if anyone was listening. Then he looked back at Eastwood. There was something about this old man that made Marcus want to trust him. Maybe it was his calm voice. Or maybe it was the fact that he had actually stopped to listen when no one else would. "Can I show you instead?" Marcus asked. Eastwood nodded. "Lead the way." As they walked away from the busy street, neither of them knew that this chance meeting would change both their lives forever. Marcus led Clint Eastwood away from the busy main street. They walked down a narrow side street where fewer people passed by. The boy moved quickly, looking back now and then to make sure Eastwood was still following. For a man in his 90s, Eastwood kept up well, his long legs easily matching the boy's pace. "It's back here," Marcus said quietly. He pointed to a small alley between two tall buildings. The alley was dark and smelled bad. There were trash bags piled against one wall. Empty boxes were stacked near a rusty metal door. Eastwood noticed a small space in the corner with cardboard laid out flat and a thin, dirty blanket. "Is that where you sleep?" Eastwood asked, nodding toward the cardboard. Marcus looked down at his shoes. "Sometimes. I move around a lot. It's safer that way." Eastwood felt something tight in his chest. He had seen poverty before. He had even made movies about tough times. But seeing this young boy living like this made him angry in a way that surprised him. "This way," Marcus said, moving deeper into the alley. They came to a chain-link fence. On the other side was a small concrete area behind the row of food carts. Marcus pointed to a gap between the fence and the wall. "We can see through here," he whispered. Eastwood crouched down beside the boy. His old knees protested, but he ignored the pain. Through the gap, they could see the back of the food carts. The one with the red-capped man was right in front of them. "Watch," Marcus said. The man in the red cap came around to the back of his cart. He looked around quickly, then opened a dirty plastic container. Inside was meat that had clearly gone bad. Even from where they were hiding, Eastwood could see the meat had changed color. The man took this old meat and mixed it with fresh meat in another container. "That's not all," Marcus whispered. "Wait until you see the rest." The man went, back to serve more customers. While he was gone, Eastwood and Marcus watched as 3 large rats climbed onto the preparation table. They ran across the food and nibbled at the meat mixture. When the man returned, he shooed the rats away casually, as if this happened all the time. He didn't clean the table. He didn't throw away the food the rats had touched. He just continued, making sandwiches. He dropped stuff on the ground too, Marcus said. He just picks it up and uses it anyway. The ground is dirty with rat poop and other gross stuff. Eastwood had seen enough. He stood up, his face hard with anger. How long have you been watching this? Almost 3 weeks, Marcus said. I tried to tell people. No one listens to a kid like me. He gestured to his dirty clothes and unwashed hair. They'll listen to me, Eastwood said firmly. They walked back to the main street. Eastwood took out his cell phone and dialed a number. Who are you calling? Marcus asked, looking nervous. The health department, Eastwood replied. Then the police. Marcus stepped back. The police? I don't do good with police. They always think I'm stealing or causing trouble. Eastwood looked at the boy. He understood Marcus's fear. You're not in any trouble, son. You're helping stop something bad. Just stay with me. While they waited for officials to arrive, Eastwood bought Marcus a hot chocolate from a nearby coffee shop. The boy held the warm cup in both hands, sipping slowly, savoring each taste. Why are you helping me? Marcus asked suddenly. Most people just walk by. They pretend they don't see me. Eastwood thought for a moment. Because you were trying to do the right thing when no one would listen. That takes courage. It's not courage, Marcus said, looking into his cup. I saw a man get really sick yesterday after eating one of those sandwiches. An ambulance came. I didn't want that to happen to anyone else. That's exactly what courage is, Eastwood said. Doing the right thing even when it's hard. 30 minutes. Later, 2 health inspectors arrived. They wore official uniforms and carried clipboards. Eastwood spoke to them quietly, explaining what he and Marcus had seen. At first, the inspectors seemed doubtful, but when they heard Clint Eastwood's name, their attitude changed. Mr. Eastwood, we're big fans of your work, one inspector said. We'll check this out right away. Eastwood frowned. Don't do it because of who I am. Do it because this boy saw something dangerous and tried to stop it. The inspectors looked at Marcus with new respect. The boy stood a little straighter under their gaze. Can you show us what you saw? The second inspector asked Marcus. Marcus nodded. He led the inspectors to the same spot where he had shown Eastwood the unsanitary conditions. The inspectors took pictures and made notes. Their faces grew more serious with each discovery. While the inspectors worked, a police car arrived. 2 officers stepped out. Marcus moved closer to Eastwood, clearly uncomfortable. It's okay, Eastwood said quietly. They're here to help. The health inspectors returned to the main street. They went straight to the food cart with the man in the red cap. They showed their badges and began to inspect his operation. The man looked confused, then angry. He started to argue loudly. Those conditions are completely unsafe, one inspector told the police officers. Multiple health code violations. This operation needs to be shut down immediately. The man in the red cap pointed at Marcus. Was it that street rat? He's just trying to hurt my business. He's asked me for free food, and I said no. Marcus looked down at the ground, his shoulders hunched as if expecting a blow. Eastwood stepped forward. The man in the red cap recognized him immediately. His angry expression changed to one of shock. You're Clint Eastwood, he stammered. Yes, I am, Eastwood said coolly. And I saw your operation with my own eyes, so don't blame the boy. The police officers moved the growing crowd of onlookers back. The health inspectors put up signs declaring the food cart closed. The man in the red cap was given papers with fines and violations listed. A young woman who had been about to buy a sandwich approached Eastwood and Marcus. What happened? Why did they close it down? She asked. Eastwood looked at Marcus, giving him a chance to speak. Marcus stood up straight. His voice was quiet but clear. He was using bad meat. There were rats all over the food. People were getting sick. The woman looked horrified. I've eaten there twice this week. I haven't felt good, but I thought it was just stress. She turned to Eastwood. Thank you for stopping this. Don't thank me, Eastwood said, putting his hand on Marcus's shoulder. Thank him. He's the one who saw what was happening and tried to warn people. The woman smiled at Marcus. Then thank you. You might have saved me from getting really sick." Marcus wasn't used to thank yous or smiles from strangers. He didn't know what to say, so he just nodded. As the officials continued their work, Eastwood led Marcus to a bench away from the crowd. The boy looked tired but also relieved. "What happens now?" Marcus asked. Eastwood looked at the boy thoughtfully. There was something special about this kid, something that shouldn't be wasted on the streets. "Now," Eastwood said, "we figure out your story, Marcus, and maybe we can find a way to give it a better next chapter." Marcus didn't fully understand what Eastwood meant, but something in the old man's voice gave him hope. For the first time, in a long time, Marcus felt like someone actually saw him, not just a homeless kid to ignore or chase away, but a person who mattered. The afternoon sun was warm on their faces as Clint Eastwood and Marcus sat in a small restaurant. After the food cart was shut down, Eastwood had taken the boy to get a proper meal. At first, Marcus had been nervous about going inside. He had looked down at his dirty clothes and messy hair. "They won't let me in there," he had said quietly. "They will," Eastwood had replied firmly. "You're with me." Now they sat across from each other at a clean table by the window. Marcus had ordered a burger and fries. He ate slowly, trying to have good manners, but Eastwood could tell the boy was very hungry. "When was the last time you had a real meal?" Eastwood asked. Marcus thought for a moment. "Maybe 2 weeks ago. The shelter on Mission Street gives hot meals on Sundays, but it's always really crowded." Eastwood nodded. He watched as Marcus carefully wrapped half of his burger in a napkin. Later, the boy explained, a little embarrassed. "You never know when you'll get to eat again. You can order another one if you want," Eastwood said. Marcus's eyes widened. "Really? Really?" While they waited for the second burger, Eastwood asked Marcus about his life. At first, the boy gave short answers. He didn't seem used to adults being interested in him. But slowly his words began to flow more freely. "I've been in the system since I was 7, Marcus explained. "My mom had problems with drugs. I don't know who my dad is." "How many foster homes have you been in?" Eastwood asked. 5, Marcus replied. "The last one was with Mr. Peterson. He was okay at first. Then he lost his job and started drinking a lot. That's when I left." "Did you tell your social worker?" Marcus shook his head. "My social worker changed 3 times in 2 years. The new one never returned my calls, and the last time I reported a bad home, they just moved me to another bad one, so I figured I'd be better off on my own." Eastwood felt a mix of sadness and anger. The system that was supposed to protect kids like Marcus had failed him over and over. "How long have you been on the streets?" he asked. "Almost 8 months now," Marcus said. He took a sip of his soda. "Winter was the hardest, but I'm smart about it. I know where to go, where not to go. I can take care of myself." Eastwood looked at the boy. Marcus was trying to sound tough, but Eastwood could see the tiredness in his young eyes. "A child shouldn't have to be smart about surviving on the streets," Eastwood said quietly. Their conversation was interrupted when a news van pulled up outside the restaurant. A woman with a microphone and a man with a camera got out. "Uh-oh," Eastwood said with a small smile. "Looks like someone called the news about what happened." Marcus's face showed panic. "I don't want to be on TV. The people from social services will find me and put me back in a bad home." Eastwood understood the boy's fear. "Stay here," he said. "I'll talk to them." Outside, Eastwood spoke with the reporter. He kept the conversation focused on the health violations at the food cart. He didn't mention Marcus at all. The reporter was excited to have Clint Eastwood on camera and didn't push for more details about who had discovered the violations. When Eastwood returned to the table, Marcus had finished his second burger. "What did you tell them?" the boy asked, anxiously. "Just about the bad food cart," Eastwood replied. "I didn't mention you." Marcus relaxed a little. "Thanks. We need to figure out what to do next," Eastwood said. "You can't keep living on the streets." Fear showed in Marcus's eyes. "Please don't call social services. They'll just put me in another home where no one cares." Eastwood thought for a long moment. What he was considering wasn't simple. At 92 years old, he wasn't in a position to take in a child. But he couldn't just send Marcus back to a broken system. "I have a friend," Eastwood said finally. "Her name is Sarah. She and her husband David run a small group home for boys. It's not part of the regular foster system. It's private, and they only take a few kids at a time. They're good people." "How do you know?" Marcus asked suspiciously. "I've helped fund their home for years," Eastwood explained. "I visit sometimes. The boys there are happy. They get good food, their own beds, and Sarah and David really care about them." Marcus looked down at the table, thinking, "Would I have to stay there forever?" "Just until we find a better solution," Eastwood said. "It would be temporary, but it would be safe. Better than the streets." Marcus still looked unsure. "Can I see it first before deciding?" Eastwood smiled. This boy was smart. He didn't trust easily, and that had probably kept him safer on the streets. "Of course," Eastwood said. "We can go there now if you want." Marcus nodded slowly. "Okay." They left the restaurant and got into Eastwood's car. It was a simple black sedan, nothing flashy. As they drove through the city, Marcus looked out the window silently. Eastwood could almost see the thoughts racing through the boy's mind. After about 20 minutes, they arrived at a large house in a quiet neighborhood. The house was painted blue with white trim. It had a big front yard with a basketball hoop. A swing set could be seen in the backyard. As they parked, a woman came out of the front door. She was in her 50s with kind eyes and graying hair pulled back in a ponytail. She wore jeans and a simple t-shirt. "Clint," she said with a warm smile. "What a surprise. David just mentioned you yesterday." "Hello, Sarah," Eastwood said. "This is Marcus. We've had quite a day together." Sarah looked at Marcus with a warm smile. "Hello, Marcus. Welcome to our home." Marcus stood close to Eastwood, studying the woman carefully. "Why don't you both come inside?" Sarah suggested. "Some of the boys are playing basketball in the back. Others are doing homework in the study room." Inside, the house was clean and comfortable. It wasn't fancy, but it felt like a real home. Photos of smiling boys covered one wall. Marcus looked at them closely. "Are these all the kids who lived here?" he asked. "Yes," Sarah said. "Every boy who has stayed with us is on that wall. We never forget any of them." Marcus seemed impressed by this. "How many are here now?" "Currently 6, Sarah replied. "Our maximum is 8. Each boy has his own space. We believe that's important." They walked through the house. Sarah showed them the kitchen where a man was preparing dinner. He introduced himself as David, Sarah's husband. He had a friendly face and strong hands that looked like they knew how to fix things. "We're having spaghetti tonight," he told Marcus. "Do you like spaghetti?" "I guess," Marcus said with a shrug. But Eastwood noticed the boy's eyes light up at the mention of the food. They continued the tour, seeing the bedrooms, the study room, and the game room. In each space, the boys they met seemed relaxed and at home. They greeted Eastwood with excitement. Clearly, his visits were special events, but they were also welcoming to Marcus. One boy about Marcus's age showed him a comic book collection. Another invited him to play video games later if he wanted. After the tour, they sat in the kitchen. Sarah gave Marcus a cookie and a glass of milk. "We have a room available," she told Eastwood quietly while Marcus was distracted by the cookie. "The blue room at the end of the hall." Eastwood nodded. "What do you think, Marcus? Could you stay here for a while, just until we figure things out?" Marcus looked around the kitchen. He watched as David stirred the pasta sauce. He heard the sounds of boys laughing in the backyard. "I can leave if I want to," he asked. Sarah nodded. "This isn't a prison, Marcus, but we hope you'll give us a chance to show you that not all homes are bad ones." Marcus took a deep breath. "Okay, I'll try it, but just for a little while." Eastwood felt relief wash over him. It wasn't a permanent solution, but it was a start. Marcus would be safe, fed, and cared for while Eastwood figured out what to do next. "I'll come visit you," Eastwood promised. "And you can call me anytime. Sarah has my number." For the first time that day, Marcus smiled a real smile. It changed his whole face, making him look like the child he was supposed to be. "Thank you," he said simply. As Eastwood prepared to leave, he knew this was just the beginning of his connection with Marcus. Something important had started today, and he wasn't going to walk away from it. 2 weeks passed since Marcus moved into Sarah and David's group home. The first few days had been hard for him. He wasn't used to having a schedule or following rules. He wasn't used to sleeping in a real bed every night. Sometimes he would wake up confused, thinking he was still on the streets. But Sarah or David would always be there to remind him that he was safe now. Clint Eastwood called every other day to check on Marcus. He also came to visit twice. During his second visit, he brought a basketball and played with all the boys in the backyard. Despite being 92 years old, he could still shoot surprisingly well. The boys were amazed, especially Marcus. One afternoon, Eastwood arrived at the group home for another visit. Sarah met him at the door. "He's doing better," she told Eastwood as they walked inside. "He's still quiet, but he's starting to trust us a little more. He hasn't tried to run away in 5 days, which is progress." Eastwood nodded. "Has he talked about his mother at all?" "Not much," Sarah said. "Just that she had drug problems and that he misses her sometimes. I think there's more to that story, but he's not ready to share it yet." They found Marcus in the study room reading a book. His appearance had changed dramatically in 2 weeks. His hair was clean and neatly cut. He wore new clothes that fit him properly. His face had filled out a bit from regular meals. But the biggest change was in his eyes. They were more relaxed now, less watchful. "Mr. Eastwood," Marcus said, putting down his book. He didn't run to greet him like some of the other boys might have done, but his smile was genuine. "Hello, Marcus," Eastwood said. "How are you doing?" "Good, I guess," Marcus replied. "David is teaching me how to fix bikes, and I'm reading this book about space." He held up the book to show Eastwood. "That sounds interesting," Eastwood said. "I was wondering if you'd like to go for a walk with me today. There's something I want to talk to you about." Marcus looked curious, but also a little worried. "Am I in trouble?" "Not at all," Eastwood assured him. "It's something good, I hope." They walked to a small park near the group home. It was a sunny day and children played on the swings and slides. Marcus and Eastwood sat on a bench watching them. "I've been doing some research," Eastwood began. "About your situation," Marcus stiffened slightly. "What do you mean?" "I talked to some people who know about the foster care system," Eastwood explained. "I wanted to understand why things went wrong for you, and I wanted to see if there was a way to make sure you don't have to go back to that." "Can I stay at Sarah and David's?" Marcus asked. "They're nice. You can stay there as long as you need to," Eastwood said. "But I was thinking about something more permanent." Marcus looked confused. "Like what?" Eastwood took a deep breath. What he was about to suggest wasn't something he had planned. It had come to him gradually over the past 2 weeks as he thought more and more about the brave boy who had tried to protect strangers from getting sick. "I have a big house," Eastwood said. "Most of my children are grown up with families of their own. I live alone most of the time. It's too quiet." Marcus listened, not yet understanding where this was going. "I've talked to my lawyer," Eastwood continued, "and to a judge I know. There's a way for me to become your legal guardian. That means you would come live with me, and I would be responsible for taking care of you, making sure you have food, clothes, education, everything you need." Marcus's eyes widened. "You want me to live with you, but you're famous and old, no offense." Eastwood laughed. "No offense taken. Yes, I'm old. And yes, I'm known by many people. But I'm also just a man who lives in a house that's too big and too empty. And you're a boy who needs a home." "But why me?" Marcus asked. "There are lots of kids who need homes." "Because you showed me something important," Eastwood said seriously. "You showed me that even when life had given you every reason to only think about yourself, you still cared about helping others. That's rare, Marcus. That's special." Marcus looked down at his hands. "I just didn't want people to get sick." "Exactly," Eastwood said. "Most people in your situation would have been too busy trying to survive to worry about strangers eating bad food. But you weren't. You tried to warn them. even when no one would listen to you. They sat quietly for a moment. A breeze moved through, the trees above them. "Would I have to call you Dad?" Marcus asked finally. "No," Eastwood said. "You can call me Clint, or Mr. Eastwood if you prefer. Whatever feels right to you." "What if it doesn't work out?" Marcus's voice was small. "What if you change your mind?" Eastwood turned to face the boy directly. "Marcus, I don't make promises lightly. When I say I want to give you a home, I mean it. I won't change my mind, but this is your decision too. If you're not comfortable with the idea, you can stay with Sarah and David. You have choices now." Marcus thought for a long time. Eastwood didn't rush him. "Can I still see Sarah and David sometimes?" he asked eventually. "Of course," Eastwood said, "and the other boys too, if you want." "Would I go to school?" "Yes," Eastwood said. "A good school, and we'd get you any extra help you need to catch up." Marcus nodded slowly, taking it all in. "Could I think about it for a few days?" "Absolutely," Eastwood said. "Take all the time you need." They walked back to the group home together. Marcus was quiet, lost in thought. Eastwood understood. It was a big decision for a young boy to make. 3 days later, Eastwood's phone rang. It was Sarah. "Marcus wants to talk to you," she said. Then Marcus's voice came on the line. "Mr. Eastwood," he said, "I've been thinking about what you said, about living with you." "Yes," Eastwood said, trying to keep his voice neutral. "I want to try it," Marcus said, "if you still want me to." Eastwood felt a warmth spread through his chest. "I do, Marcus. I really do." The process wasn't simple. There were papers to sign, interviews with social workers, and a judge to convince. But Eastwood was determined. He had lawyers and connections that helped smooth the way. And most importantly, he had Marcus's trust now. A month after their conversation in the park, Eastwood brought Marcus to his home for the first time. It was a beautiful house on a large piece of land with trees and space to run. Marcus had never seen anything like it. "This is all yours?" he asked in amazement. "Ours now." Eastwood corrected him. He showed Marcus around. The kitchen with its big refrigerator always full of food. The living room with comfortable chairs and a large TV. The library filled with books of all kinds. And finally, Marcus's room, Eastwood, had prepared it carefully. The walls were painted blue because Sarah had mentioned that Marcus liked that color. There was a desk for schoolwork, bookshelves with books about space and other topics Marcus had shown interest in, and a comfortable bed with new sheets. "This is really for me?" Marcus asked, his voice full of wonder. "Really for you," Eastwood confirmed. "We can change anything you don't like." Marcus walked around the room slowly, touching things gently as if they might disappear. He stopped at the window which looked out over the yard with its tall trees. "I've never had my own room before," he said quietly. "In the foster homes, I always shared with other kids." Eastwood stood in the doorway watching the boy take it all in. He knew that giving Marcus a room, a house, even legal guardianship was just the beginning. The boy had been through too much to heal quickly. There would be difficult days ahead, there would be adjustments for both of them. But watching Marcus place his few belongings carefully on the desk, the space book from Sarah and David, a small model car one of the other boys had given him, a smooth stone he had picked up in the park, Eastwood felt certain they were on the right path. "Welcome home, Marcus," he said softly. Marcus turned from the window. For a moment his face showed all his complicated feelings: happiness, fear, hope, disbelief. Then he smiled, and it was like watching the sun come out from behind clouds. "Thank you," he said simply. But those two words carried the weight of everything the boy had been through, and everything that was now possible for his future. 1 year had passed since the day Marcus shouted, "Don't eat that," and changed his life forever. The once thin, dirty boy who slept in alleys was now almost unrecognizable. Living with Clint Eastwood had given Marcus more than just a home. It had given him a chance to be a child again. On a sunny Saturday morning, Marcus sat at the kitchen table eating breakfast. He was taller now, and his face had lost its hollow look. His hair was neatly cut, and his clothes were clean and fit him well. But the biggest change was in his eyes. They no longer darted around looking for danger. Instead, they were calm and often filled with curiosity. Eastwood came into the kitchen with the morning newspaper. Despite being 93 years old now, he still moved with purpose. He had slowed down a bit in the past year, but his mind was as sharp as ever. "Good morning," Eastwood said, pouring himself a cup of coffee. "Did you sleep well?" "Yes," Marcus said. "I didn't have any nightmares last night." This was significant progress. When Marcus first came to live with Eastwood, he had terrible nightmares almost every night. Sometimes he would wake up screaming, thinking he was back on the streets or in one of the bad foster homes. Eastwood would sit with him until he fell asleep again, reassuring him that he was safe. "That's good," Eastwood said with a smile. "Are you ready for today?" Marcus nodded, though he looked a little nervous. "I think so. Today was an important day. They were going to the opening of the Marcus Project, a new program Eastwood had started to help homeless children and improve the foster care system. After the health department shut down the unsafe food cart, Eastwood had become interested in the problems of homeless children and the foster care system. The more he learned, the more he wanted to help. He realized that what happened to Marcus, being placed in unsafe homes and eventually ending up on the streets, happened to many children. Using his fame and money, Eastwood had created a foundation. The foundation worked with the city to identify children in dangerous situations and find them safe places to live. It also provided training for foster parents and support for children who had aged out of the system. "Do I really have to give a speech?" Marcus asked, pushing his empty plate away. "Just a short one," Eastwood assured him. "And I'll be right there with you." Marcus had been receiving therapy for the past year to help him process his traumatic experiences. His therapist, Dr. Chen, had suggested that sharing his story might help him heal. It could also help other children in similar situations. "What, if I mess up?" Marcus worried. "Then you mess up," Eastwood said simply. "Everyone does sometimes, but I know you'll do fine. Just speak from your heart like we practiced." They drove to a new building in downtown San Francisco. A crowd of people had already gathered outside. There were important city officials, social workers, foster families, and reporters with cameras. As Eastwood and Marcus walked from the car to the building, people turned to look at them. Some took pictures. Marcus stayed close to Eastwood, still uncomfortable with attention. Inside, the building was bright and welcoming. There were colorful murals on the walls, comfortable furniture, and friendly staff members. This would be a place where homeless children could come for help. They could get food, clean clothes, medical care, and help finding a safe place to live. There would also be trained counselors to talk to and activities to enjoy. The mayor of San Francisco greeted Eastwood and Marcus warmly. "We're so grateful for what you've done," she told them. "This center will help hundreds of children every year." After everyone was seated, the mayor gave a speech about the importance of protecting vulnerable children. Then she introduced Eastwood. The crowd applauded loudly as he walked to the microphone. "Thank you all for coming today," Eastwood began. "This project is very special to me, but it wouldn't exist without a very brave young man I met 1 year ago." He told the story of how Marcus had tried to warn people about the unsafe food when no one would listen to him. He explained how this small act of courage had inspired him to learn more about the challenges facing homeless children. "Many people walk past these kids every day without seeing them," Eastwood said. "They become invisible, but they are not invisible. They are children who deserve safety, love, and opportunities. The Marcus Project will help make that possible." Then it was Marcus's turn to speak. He walked slowly to the microphone, looking nervous. But when he saw Eastwood's encouraging smile, he stood up straighter. "My name is Marcus," he began, his voice quiet but clear. "A year ago, I was living on the streets. I was hungry and scared all the time. I didn't trust anyone because too many people had hurt me or let me down." The room was completely silent as everyone listened to this young boy's story. "When I saw people about to eat food that I knew was bad, I tried to warn them. No one believed me because I was just a dirty kid. But Mr. Eastwood listened to me. He didn't just walk by like everyone else. Marcus paused, gathering his thoughts. That day changed my life. But there are so many kids like me who are still waiting for someone to notice them, to help them. This place will do that. It will see them when no one else does. His simple words touched everyone in the room. When he finished speaking, the applause was thunderous. Several people wiped tears from their eyes. After the ceremony, many people came to talk to Marcus and Eastwood. One of them was a woman in her 30s with long dark hair. She approached Marcus cautiously. "Hello, Marcus," she said. "You probably don't remember me, but I was the woman you warned about the sandwich that day, the one in the purple coat." Marcus looked at her in surprise. "I remember you. I just wanted to thank you," she said. "Not just for warning me that day, but for inspiring all of this." She gestured to the new center around them. "You've helped create something that will help so many children." Later that evening, back at home, Marcus and Eastwood sat on the porch watching the sunset. It had been a long, emotional day. "You did really well today," Eastwood told him. "I'm proud of you." Marcus smiled. "It felt good to tell my story. Dr. Chen was right about that." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Marcus spoke again. "Do you think my mom will ever see the news about the Marcus project? Do you think she might try to find me?" This was a question Marcus had asked before. His mother had disappeared years ago, lost to her drug addiction. Finding her had been one of the first things Eastwood had tried to do for Marcus, but so far, they had no leads. "I don't know, son," Eastwood said honestly. "But we won't stop looking for her." Marcus nodded, accepting this answer as he had before. "Even if we never find her, I'm okay now," he said quietly. "I have a home. I have you." Eastwood felt a lump in his throat. In trying to save this boy, he had found a new purpose in his own life. At 93, when most people would be slowing down, he was helping change the foster care system and raising a child. "And I have you," Eastwood said, putting his hand on Marcus's shoulder. As the last light of day faded, they went inside together. The house that had once seemed too big and too empty to Eastwood was now filled with life and purpose. And the boy who had once been invisible to most people now had a voice that was helping others like him. All because one day, a homeless boy had the courage to shout, "Don't eat that," and one man had taken the time to listen.